And today, especially for you, our listener, we're plunging straight into the beginnings of Claire Beauchamp Randall Fraser's journey, of Diana Gabaldon's Outlander.
Right.
Specifically, those very first moments that really set the stage for everything that follows.
Exactly. And you, the learner, our mission, give you that quick but, thorough understanding, those aha moments.
And hopefully keep you hooked without getting bogged down in too many extra details.
Okay, so let's dive in. Let's unpack this really pivotal first conversation we hear between Claire and Frank right after the war.
It kicks off with Frank asking Claire a question that seems casual enough on the surface. He asks pretty directly if she had many Scotsmen under her care at the field hospital during the war.
It does feel a little loaded, though, doesn't it? Almost like he's, I don't know, probing something.
I think it does. It might be more than just curiosity. You get this subtle hint of maybe the anxieties left over from being separated for so long during the war.
Like he's wondering about the time apart.
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
Frank's a historian. Maybe he's grappling subconsciously with those lost years, how Claire might have changed. It could lead him down these slightly, well, uncomfortable paths.
And Claire's answer is so practical, isn't it? Just straightforward, remembering specific people.
Right, like the Gordons, apparently nice guys, stoic, but terrified of needles.
More scared of injections than battle. And that old Piper from the third Cameron's unforgettable. His rather unique view on where he preferred his injections.
Well, that line is classic. If I'm going to lie on my face while my butt spared, I want the last under me, not behind me. It's just such a human detail, amidst all the seriousness.
It really is. But Frank seems a bit put off by these stories. Claire calls them her less delicate war stories.
He does seem a little unsettled. And what's interesting is how quickly he changes the subject.
Yeah, he pivots almost immediately, doesn't he? Goes from that slightly awkward question straight into complimenting her.
Showering her with affection, her eyes like sherry and crystal, her skin glowing like ivory. It's like he's trying to smooth things over fast.
Or maybe reassure himself after asking something potentially sensitive.
That could be it, too. And you definitely get that sense of their established intimacy, the playful banter they share.
But then he comes back to it, back to the Scotsman.
He does. And there's a real hesitation this time, isn't there? He suggests maybe someone she nursed might have, followed her.
What do you think is behind that? Is he genuinely suspicious, or is it more about his own insecurity after 6 years apart?
It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Claire's response is so practical. Why wouldn't they just ask for her? It really highlights her directness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Frank, he does that sort of fake surprise, that suggestion of a romantic interest or a liaison. It feels like he's almost trying to plant an idea.
Even if he doesn't fully believe it himself, yeah. It feels pointed.
And Claire just explodes. Understandably, the implication of unfaithfulness after everything, it clearly hits a raw nerve. Telling him to leave is such a strong reaction.
It really is. And Frank's apology, blaming the separation, it feels a bit weak, maybe, like he knows he crossed a line, but doesn't quite get how much it hurt her.
This whole exchange, it really sets up this subtle underlying tension in their relationship, doesn't it? Right from the start.
Definitely. And then you get that flash from outside, the storm breaking right at that moment.
Almost too perfect dramatically, like nature mirroring the emotion in the room.
And Claire, quoting The Merchant of Venice, the quality of mercy is not strained. It's like she's offering forgiveness, but maybe still feeling that sting.
Her internal thought about the lack of evidence, the sheer length of time they were apart, it really shows her wounded pride. Okay, so the mood shifts the next morning. They're planning a trip.
Yes, a trip to the Standing Stones. And we meet Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook. His elderly gallantry described as, like, bumpers on a tugboat. That's quite the image. Sets a slightly lighter tone for the outing.
It does. And that description of their leisurely walk, the countryside.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Until Mr. Cook's cycle suddenly throttled into silence.
A little moment of interruption. And then they arrive at the stones.
The description really paints a picture. The green setting, the rocks, that path sort of vanishing behind the granite. Frank wants to show her properly after their meal, so there's this anticipation building.
But they do more exploring first, right? On the lock.
They do. They hire a guide, this DL-looking little man who turns out to be full of local stories and legends.
And these legends, they're not just background color, are they?
Not at all. It's fascinating how they almost blur the lines between reality and, well, the supernatural. It perfectly foreshadows what's about to happen to Claire.
We hear about Art Castle cursed by witches, apparently.
And that sad story of forbidden love, with that strange prophecy, The devil will take the Elev Grand out of his shoes, and Donald Dawn shall not be hanged. Very cryptic.
And you can't forget the lock monster. Sacrifices a bottomless pit.
And that amazing sighting by the family from Lancashire. Red hair, horns, dripping blood. The constable's reaction is priceless. Wheel bar the drip pin blood.
Fantastic. It just adds this layer of, well, a world where the strange isn't entirely unexpected.
Exactly. A world where the unusual is almost accepted. A world Claire's about to fall into. So they head back. Frank's laughing. Claire remembers the miniature hen on Cray Nod done.
A brief moment of normalcy almost, but it doesn't last.
No, Frank's suddenly very interested in seeing this hen, and then he casually asks about witches. Claire mentions the vicar's housekeeper.
It feels like just light curiosity, before everything changes utterly at the Stones.
The change is incredibly abrupt, jarring, just like Claire experiences it. Everything shimmered and went black. 1 second she's with Frank.
The next, she sees someone who looks like Frank, but not Frank. The whole vibe is different.
Completely different. That sardonic bow, the introduction, Madam Jonathan Randall Esquire, Captain of His Majesty's 8th Drons. Chilling.
And instantly, she knows she's not in her time anymore. And this isn't Frank. Being a captain of dragoons back then, that carried weight, authority, threat.
Absolutely. The situation's immediately menacing, and Claire just runs. Pure panic, tearing through the woods. The physical distress. You feel her terror.
And then he catches her. The description is brutal. The heavy weight, the rough hands pinning her. It's terrifyingly real.
And his tone shifts again. That awful chuckle. The crude remark. It's just a shocking contrast to the Frank she knew.
His actions, forcing himself on her, the kiss, the questions, who are you with? Dismissing Frank, commenting on her clothes, how she doesn't smell of dung.
It paints a picture of someone cruel, suspicious, from a much rougher, more dangerous time. But Claire fights back, defies him. Her first act of resistance in this impossible situation.
And just when it seems hopeless, someone else arrives. Suddenly, men on horseback.
And one of them, even though he's clearly hurt, immediately moves to protect her.
Our first sight of Jamie.
Yes. And it's described through smell and feel, wood smoke, blood, unwashed mail, harsh things, but Claire feels grateful for his warmth against the cold night.
The shared plaid, too. Such a practical thing, but it creates this immediate, if forced, connection.
Their first words are awkward, aren't they? It highlights how different their worlds are. He doesn't know recent history that's obvious to her.
And just mentioning an English patrol makes her shudder. Randall is still fresh in her mind.
It's interesting, too, how she notes the smell of blood on Jamie. She's used to blood from nursing, but this feels different, more immediate, maybe.
And the ambush, musket fire, danger is everywhere.
And Jamie acts instantly to shield her. It reinforces that protective instinct he showed, even toward the stranger. And despite his injury, why do you think he does that? Straight away.
It's a good question. Maybe it's just who he is, or maybe the situation demands it. Even in her fear, Claire feels relieved it's him, not Randall, despite Jamie looking, well, dangerous himself.
Their conversation after is fascinating. Claire tries to use her nurse's authority.
Tells him it's arterial bleeding.
And Jamie just sort of acknowledges it, almost casually. It's such a clash of their realities.
He seems almost amused when she objects to being kidnapped again.
Right, and then he just calmly says he'll carry her if she won't walk. It establishes their dynamic right there. She complies, reluctantly, partly because he's injured, partly because what choice does she have?
Then meeting the other men scrambling for horses. It's chaotic, unfamiliar, and she accidentally hurts his bad shoulder.
That little moment of mixed feelings, resentment, but also remorse. It's a tiny detail, but it shows the complexity starting already in their, well, forced relationship.
So as they're escaping, Jamie starts to open up a bit about himself, but it's through this absolutely brutal flashback involving Randall.
Yeah, he's talking about being forced to give supplies near Fort William, and it triggers this memory of Randall's, well, extreme cruelty.
Holding a pistol to Jenny's head, capturing Jamie, the taunts like Spitfire and Nine Tails. It instantly shows you Randall's sadistic nature.
And the violence against the women, stripping Claire, binding her, whipping her, it's shocking. It leaves no doubt about Randall being utterly menacing. Depraved, really.
That question he asks Jenny while whipping Claire.
Yeah.
It's just deeply disturbing. Shows the depth of his cruelty.
And the knife threat to Claire, Jamie feeling helpless, almost in a hypnotic state, Jenny's sacrifice. It reveals Randall's awfulness, but also the incredible loyalty and love within Jamie's family.
Jamie telling this story, getting emotional, but then quickly shifting back to a more practical tone. It shows that resilience you need to survive things like that, doesn't it?
It really does. And Claire's quiet sympathy while she bandages his shoulder. That physical closeness creates this fragile but definite connection.
And that moment where Jamie almost reaches out to touch her face.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it? So much unsaid already building between them in this intense pressure cooker.
You feel Claire's conflict then thinking of Frank, but facing this unbelievable reality, she breaks down.
And Jamie's response is surprisingly gentle, comforting. It shows another side to him, a compassion beneath the rough exterior.
His practical care, offering food, warmth, soothing words. The simple act of sharing a meal. It feels like a small turning point. A bit more comfort, maybe.
Definitely. And him offering her the bed, despite his own injury, that's a real gesture of consideration. Respect, even.
Their journey eventually takes them to a castle, an imposing place, and another powerful figure, Colin Mackenzie.
Claire's immediately taking everything in, observing the place, the people, and meeting Colin. The description is striking. Broad face, high forehead, intense eyes. But then the bowed legs.
It creates this complex impression, doesn't it? And Claire seems uncomfortable at first.
You can feel it. But Colin handles his condition with a certain dignity, maybe a bit weary of how people react.
Claire just wants to get back to the Stones, understandably. She needs to understand what happened, get back home.
But Colin's comment about his brother Dougal's impetuousness, it hints right away at the power dynamics within the clan. It's not going to be simple.
No. And when Claire directly asks to be taken aback, Colin just gestures for her to sit. Simple, but totally authoritative. She's under his control now.
He sends for refreshments, asks politely about Mistress Beam and her distress. But it feels like the start of an interrogation, doesn't it? A very careful one.
It does. And Claire's mind is already working, thinking about interrogation tactics, quickly inventing that story about English soldiers attacking her and Randall. She's sharp, adapting fast.
Very sharp. And Colin's reaction, his expression changing when she mentions English soldiers, that tells you her story, even fabricated, has hit on something important, something with serious political implications in this time.
So let's sum up this initial, just breathtaking plunge Claire takes into this other time. It's such a whirlwind, isn't it? Sharp contrasts everywhere.
Absolutely. The familiar, loving world with Frank is just shattered, violently replaced by the threat of Randall, and then the, well, unexpected protection of Jamie.
We meet these key players right away, and this whole web of mysteries just starts spinning around Claire instantly.
And the real aha moment for you, listening, has to be that sudden, stark realization of the sheer gap in time. How different this world is, how dangerous. These first encounters lay all the groundwork for the complex relationships and conflicts to come.
Think about it, Claire's complete disorientation. Imagine trying to adapt to a world that's utterly alien, with different rules, different dangers. What would you make of those first meetings, the contrast between Frank, Randall, and Jamie?
And here's a final thought for you to ponder. With all these intense first encounters, this tangle of potential allies and definite enemies, what single question do you think becomes the most critical for Claire's survival as she navigates this new time? What do these initial moments tell us about fate, maybe, and our ability to adapt when faced with the truly unimaginable?